Good afternoon, and welcome to our Shotsukihoyo Memorial Service. It is to remember those persons who have passed away in the month of March. Please begin with quiet meditation. Place your hands together and sit quietly and in Gasho. Sensei will ring the bell to begin and end the meditation.
Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida.
Please stand for opening gatha, Namo Butsu on page 174 of the Purple Book, and remain standing for the reading of the Three Treasures 1 on page 8. Three Treasures 1 on page 8. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One, now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. The names of the Shotsuki Hoyo honorees for this month will now be read. Those family members and friends observing Shotsuki Hoyo, please come forward to offer incense during the reading of the names. Haru Fujihara, Seitaro Hamamoto, Seemon Hamamoto, Toshiro Itano, Ei Kameoka, Tomoichi Kawaoka, Ushitada Masuoka, Tokuyemon Matsuda, Yasuke Maeda, Ayako Morita, Frank K. Oda, Ted Sakato, Shioji Shimizu, Hisaki Sugimoto, Yoshito Sugioka, Fred Tanaka, Saikichi Toshimura, George Shimizu, George Yutaka Yokoyama, Hatsue Otani, Lloyd Yamasaki, Nanayo Yokoyama, Kiyoshi Akutagawa, Hui King Lao, Shizuo Tsujihara, Shigeru Tsueoka, Toyotaro Tsueoka, Thomas E. Gable, George Shizuru, Mark Hiroshi Furusho, Yasuko Ueda, Jan Hasegawa, Mary Hamamoto, Mitsuo Tsujihara, Emiko Moreland, David Sugimoto, Haruko Tsujioka, Kyoko Takiyama, Toshio Ueda, Betty Michan, Hiromi Wakayama, Jimmy Yamakawa. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Sensei will now offer Sambujo on page 24. This will be followed by a dedication, and today's sutra will be Amida Kyo, pages 103 to 113.
Today, on this occasion of the Shotsuki service for the month of March, members of the temple families have reverently come before Amida Buddha in memory of their beloved. With deepest reverence and thankfulness for the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of Amida, we reaffirm the three homages. Namo Kie Butsu, Namo Kie Ho, Namo Kie So. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Please repeat the Nambutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 七宝地白六水九万五中地大順に根社富士四辺街道金剛ルリハリ五条上各百位金剛ルリハリ社交釈衆名の二言直視地中連携大名車輪小式小公法式陽公釈式釈公逆式逆公二名公決車輪法国羅国道上十両税空六将軍仏車輪法二部国道上差天学黄金二時通夜六時二遊万だらけ広告修上上位小短各位英国上修行系無用他方十万六仏即位直時天道本国本直行行チャリオ国羅国道上十両税空六将軍仏師車輪法義国上修十奇妙座敷市長百国弱法務車輪馬両民が無名市長年少修長長夜六時水和合本合本年長合本合力四五大分八正道分両税東方行動修上門税恩に開出年仏年法年創者利法上脱意思長実税祭法少々上位者が異部国道無三幕宗者利法五部国道上三幕道師の家教充実税所中長改正阿弥陀仏有料温泉流園芸調査者利法異部国道密布水道情報五十九法ラモ水味妙音二妙百千十学道寺草門税四社大事年上年仏年法年創始新社利法東北国道上十両税空六将軍ナ
Reverend Fujimoto will now give today's Dharma message.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see so many here. I always try to make it a point to appreciate the Shotsuki service and tradition in our Jodo Shinchu temples, and to have so many here today in particular. It is real special service to come and acknowledge the people we have lost during this month, and to think of them, to consider them, and all this. And as we do this, this is part of our family service also. But I think we take turns to support each other. This month is these people, these families' turn, and next month it's another family's turn, and we take turns acknowledging that, this family has lost someone, and next month is my uncle, my auntie, and things like this. And I always point out, thinking of my own family, my mother has the Shotsuki names that she has at home, and maybe 9 months out of the year, they have names that she goes to the Oakland Temple, and so she tries to make it a point to go to their Shotsuki service and to honor those in her family that we have lost. And so, just to take turns and to observe this service is very, very special. And through this, I'm able to see who comes up with which names, and I'm able to learn, so these are the connections to this name, to this family. And so I am able to feel all the more closer to this Sangha at Enmanji. Last week, we just had our BCA National Council meetings, and all of our temples had sent representatives to represent their temple, Enmanji, Alameda, all the different temples. And I always try to make a point to let you know that these meetings went on, and they are so important. And I'm always so very impressed that all these leaders from all over the United States come together, working on different committees and different projects, and working together, putting in so much time, so much dedication, that we can all be very proud of what they do. I have been at other temples where, I did the same thing, letting them know that the meetings had just occurred, and one place in particular, the younger member said, Sensei, this is the first time I can remember that our sensei said something about the BCA National Council meetings. And so, I felt a little bit disappointed and sad that they don't know how much happens. And it's easy to think of just our own temple, identify with our temple, our little country club of a temple, but there's so much that we are connected to. We go to the meetings, and representatives from Canada come, representatives from Hawaii come, just a couple from each, but they get to see how BCA runs their meetings and what's going on during this past year, and so they learn and take that back to their temples, and then we assist each other and see how we can improve every situation within BCA and trying to make things function as smoothly as possible. So much teamwork goes in, and we can all be very, very proud of what goes on there. So today I have for the Shotsuki service this parable of the moon. Okay, so this parable is part of the Nirvana Sutra. And when I think of the Nirvana Sutra, I think of Professor Mark Blum, who works with UC Berkeley and IBS, and he's one of the professors that we are able to learn from and listen to over there at IBS, and I'm not sure exactly how many years he's worked on, but he's worked on the Nirvana Sutra. Nirvana Sutra is not part of our tradition, right? We hear about the larger sutra, the smaller, the Amida Kyo that we just chanted, and the Contemplation Sutra. So these are our three main sutras, and we don't refer to the Nirvana Sutra. But he points out that Shinran Shonin mentions the Nirvana Sutra so many times in his Kyogyo Shinsho. So, very influential to Shinran Shonin and to our teachings as well. And Professor Blum, he spent like 10 years or something working to translate this Nirvana Sutra, and he's like halfway done. It's this huge work, way longer than probably all three of our sutras. And as he's doing this, he's able to work with scholars at Otani University, Higashi Honganji in Japan, and the scholars at Ryukoku University are Nishi Honganji scholars. Okay, so those two groups, they usually don't really get together that often, right? They have different approaches and different thoughts, but he works with the scholars from both traditions, Higashi and Nishi. And because he's connected with UC Berkeley, he's had this combination. Why don't we come? They take turns. Scholars from Japan come to UC Berkeley, and Berkeley scholars go to Higashi or to Nishi, and they alternate every 3 years or something. And because he's connected to IBS, IBS becomes part of this grouping. So this elevates IBS as well. So these three very major universities are working together, and he's right in the middle of all of that. So there's a lot going on there with this Nirvana Sutra and his projects. So in this parable of the moon, a very simple story, but they point out that the moon, people say the moon sets, the moon is rising, so it disappears. The moon that sets from the sky, so we no longer see it, or the moon is rising today. And so the actuality is that the moon is always there, right? And we know this from our solar system models and all these things, that it appears to disappear from the horizon, but it's actually always there, right? It is our perspective that changes, right? Our point of view, human point of view. To our limited view, the moon sets, disappears, or appears. And so it's, they compare the moon with Buddha, right? The Buddha is always there, but not always visible, not always in our minds. So people might say there's a full moon, or there's a crescent moon, different types of moon, right? But actually it's the whole moon, perfectly round, but we see it again from our own perspective, okay? And the moon can also shine on a big city like San Francisco, a smaller place like over here near Enmanji. Maybe it'll shine on a river, on a mountain, and you can see a reflection of the moon in a pond or even in a bucket. Or you can see the reflection in one drop of dew. Right? So depending on what we're looking at, we can see different aspects, different images of the moon. And so it seems like it changes, but it doesn't really change. Right? Like Buddha, it's always there. So I wanted to share with this my own stories of the moon. Some of you know I've talked a couple times about Charmin and I have a horse named Shadow who lives in Castro Valley over there. And initially we had two horses. There was Half Moon and Shadow. And so when we first got them, they were little, and Half Moon ran into a barbed wire fence, and they're not like cows. They have real thin, sensitive skin, and so he got cut. and so she couldn't take him home as was planned, and so she would go up, a few hours drive up to northern Idaho to go and see Half Moon and Shadow. And Shadow would be so protective. She'd splay her legs like this. You can't come near Half Moon, right? She's hurt. You have to stay away. And so really protective, right? And so Half Moon and Shadow. And Half Moon was a little bit older, a little bit bigger, and then there's Shadow. So to me, Shadow was Half Moon's shadow, right? Following her around, and they'd be buddies, friends, and going everywhere together. And so after Half Moon passed away, when we see the Half Moon, Charmin would point out to me, there's Half Moon's Half Moon now. And so through that, we would remember Half Moon's life and what she meant to us, for a short period of time. And so this comes to mind as we see our limited view of that moon. Okay? So on another occasion, one of my favorite pastimes is to run on the Alameda beach. So I go there early in the morning, and it's dark and no one's there yet. And so on one particular day, I go out there in the morning, and when you get there first in the morning, sometimes the water has come up and gone down, and footprints are like erased, right? So this big stretch of beach, particularly when the water is low, it's a huge beach, and it's clean. It's like someone had erased the chalkboard, and it's ready for anything new, right? So the whole beach is like this, beautiful, beautiful. Kind of like maybe walking into a gym, a basketball court, and you're the only one, you're the first one there. So everything's just immaculately clean. And so this kind of setting, and I'm running along, and I'm wondering why I could see my shadow. So it's like a big light behind me, shining behind me, that I'm not accustomed to. So what is that light? And I finally look back, and it's this big, full moon, right? And we've all experienced this, right? That big full moon, and maybe you're walking, there's no clouds, so it's even brighter. Maybe you're on a trail in the mountains of Yosemite or Tahoe, or maybe you're going through an orchard, and it's just bright, maybe even driving along. We've all experienced this, but on this particular day, it was dark and clear sky. So this moon is shining. I could see my shadow perfectly, right? And it's like, felt like I was on a stage, and the spotlight is shining right on me. I'm the only one on the stage, and so it felt like I'm the star of this show, right? And so I'm running along, and I'm enjoying this because I could see my shadow, I could see myself running, and you don't normally get to see that. So wow, how cool this is to have this bright full moon right behind me. And so in a sense, it's like I'm playing with the moon, playing with Buddha, right? So it was so much fun. I'll always remember that run, right? So on the same beach, it's not a moon story, but it was finishing up a different run, and the sun's starting to come out, and I see a little crab had come up from the water, and I could see it a little bit ahead of me, and a couple seagulls saw this same crab, right? And this crab comes up, and he knows he's getting threatened by these seagulls, and so he stood up on his hind legs, his pinchers up in the air like this, like defiantly, you can't get me, don't threaten me like this, and it reminded me of a Rocky movie, I'm still standing here. I'm still standing here, and I'm defiantly standing, go ahead, try to knock me out, go ahead. And so the crab was standing there, as powerful as he could look, and trying to fend off the seagulls, and I ran by, and I'm not sure what happened. The crab, he was only a couple inches tall, so he might have ended up being breakfast, but he was there, living with all his might, right? And so when I saw that scene, I thought of Prince Siddhartha. We hear the story of when he was young and the farmers tilled the soil, turned over the soil. He saw a bird came down, grabbed the worm and flew away. So he's noticing this life and death struggle that's going on even in something so basic as farmlands scene. And at our own temples, key people that we lose. In Alameda, there's a Master Kano that we lost a couple of weeks ago, and everyone expected to see him again. And I'm sure the same thing happens here. We expected him to come again, to walk into the Hondo again, but he couldn't, he didn't. Okay? The family, his 2 daughters and son, and the doctors fought so hard to make things good again. With all their might, they tried to see that he would get healthy again and come back to change the course, but they couldn't. So we lost this member over there. And these things come up, so many things come up in our lives, and we lock in on our focus, and we don't notice the moon. Right? We don't think of Buddha all the time. Sometimes here we think of him, but so many other times we go to work, taking care of kids, whatever, taking care of elders, and we don't think of it at every moment. But Buddha is there, the moon is there, always shining. And it's still there. It will reappear if we trust and look. So I think the parable of the moon was a story that came up when the historical Buddha was about to pass from his physical form and enter nirvana. Okay? And so he said, I'm leaving this world. From now on, you should rely on what I taught. Don't look to me as a human being. Look to the lessons of truth, the lessons of wisdom and compassion. So he left us these teachings of wisdom and compassion, always there, like the moon, right? Following us from behind or guiding us from ahead, disappear, reappear. So like the moon, the Dharma is always reappearing. The Buddha always reappearing. So this is my Dharma message for today. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sensei. Enjoyed your personal stories. Please rise for closing gatha arigato on page 249 of the Purple Book.
Arigato.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida
On March 3rd of every year, Hina Matsuri, or Girls' Day, is celebrated in Japan. Many families set up their doll displays at home. With the help of Nancy and Karen Davlin, we have a Hina Matsuri doll display set up in our social hall. It was donated by temple member Nez Tokugawa last year. Be sure to take a look at this beautiful display. Are there any announcements?
Just a reminder that next week there's no temple services in the Bay District, but we do have a 850th, 800th service at Palo Alto Buddhist Temple, and it's going to be available if you cannot go there in person. So it's going to be a very interesting service. Bishop Harada will be there. It's going to have the Gagaku court music from the Berkeley Temple. They're going to be playing as the ministers come in and procession and recession and different chantings that we will have. And so all these things are not so unusual that you will be able to listen to, partake in, and different types of chanting and other aspects. So people have worked very hard to provide this service, and it will be of interest to you. So hopefully you can find it if you're not there in person to try to connect. The time is the same, usual Sunday service at 10 o'clock. Okay. I think the link has been provided in the newsletter and everything. Yeah, make an effort, try to be there virtually. Thank you.
There are no other announcements. This will conclude today's service. I'd like to thank Reverend Fujimoto for being here today, Daryl Yagi for the kancho and setting up the onaiji, Dr. Kent Matsuda for playing the organ, and the March Toban for the flowers and the offerings. If you have not yet done so, please feel free to offer incense, and refreshments will be served in the social hall.